Geek and Code, and we're analyzing some documents today. It looks like they're from 1871. So we have this one, we have this one. This one's from 1874, so a little bit more distance, and we'll kind of break these down. So 1871, the source kind of gives it away as to what we're going to be reading. So this is from Goodsell James H. History of the Great Chicago Fire, October 8th, 9th, and 10th.
It's like it's Fire Prevention Week or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. That's exactly why you have Fire Prevention Week and Fire Prevention Month. It was because of this particular incident. But 1870s, I mean, what's going on in the world?
We've got Americans moving western.
Yep.
America is industrializing, and the first wave of old immigrants really are coming to America, specifically from North and Western Europe, Germany, Ireland, England, Scotland.
Yep.
As well.
And we're starting to see the population in cities go up.
Yeah, urbanization.
Yes.
Urbanization.
That movement from farms to cities.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what happens here in Chicago.
Okay.
So, Chicago, you can almost say this is the skyscraper experiment, or the beginning of, well, they're not into skyscrapers just yet, but the building experiment.
Yes.
And what you do wrong. So I guess as we're looking at these, we'll look at some problems and we'll talk about some possible solutions. That might be the best plan of attack. All right, so document A here. All right, the wind was blowing a perfect gale from the south-southwest. With terrible effect, the flames leaped around in mad delight and seized upon everything combustible. Shed after shed went down, and dwelling houses followed in rapid succession. Block after block gave way, and family after family were driven from their homes. The fire department were powerless to prevent the spreading of the calamity. Thoughts?
Well, Chicago's nickname is the Windy City.
Yep.
Located at the end of the Great Plains. You can imagine, without mountains or trees to block the wind, how windy it does actually get there. Never been to Chicago. You been there?
Yes.
Nah, I've never been there.
I've
Heard
been
it's a great
there.
city.
Went there in February and March for boot camp.
Oh.
Yeah, the Navy loves that place.
Yeah, okay.
But if we're starting to look at some problems, though, all right, since you're bringing up wind, and we're talking about combustible materials here, and they're talking about flames, all right?
Yeah.
In order for a fire to spread the way it's going to do in this particular scenario, is that wind is going to cause that to spread. The combustible materials these are things that are flammable. So now these flames are just eating everything it's in sight in terms of wood, things that can reach an ignition temperature to the point where it can burn.
Dry
rather
grass,
easily.
paper, whatever. And apparently the fire department at the time can't prevent the spread. Don't know why. Maybe something to do with water pressure, maybe something to do with the amount of firefighters that were there.
I'm thinking right here, since they were powerless, we are not quite up to the point, since you're bringing up water pressure, where fire hydrants
Are everywhere.
like they are today. And in terms of water pressure, we got to remember, people think the fire department, they're pulling up with fire engines, fire trucks. These people were responding. It was a horse and carriage, pretty much. What are you going to say? All right, so let's look at what else the source has to say. At first, it was one structure on fire, then another, and another were swallowed up in the whirlpool of flames, until finally it was blocks and blocks of buildings which were going down, like grass before the scythe. For upward of 15 weeks there had been no heavy rains, and the wooden walls were dry like unto tinder in the portion of the doomed city. In vain the fire department fiercely fought the approach of the conflagration. In vain were fences and small houses hurled to the ground. In vain did the vast crowd rush hither and thither, trying to save the entire west side. Onward stalked the fiery flame and red-hot air, which caused all to flee from before its scorching blasts.
All right, so we've got a couple issues going on here.
Lots.
Combine the fact that it's really, really windy. We've now got most of the city being made out of wood.
Yep.
Dry wood, in fact, because we have not had a heavy rainfall for more than 15 weeks. We are in the middle of a drought. End of the summer, early fall. Great Plains is experiencing a drought.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Not a good recipe for baking.
Yeah,
I
or
can't-
anything.
I just lost my
I mean,
word.
here's the other thing too, when you're talking about dry, all right? So in my fire protection degree experience, I think maybe the easiest way, and if I botch this up, okay, fine, but I'm gonna give it an attempt. Let's say, for example, you have hot pipes below a house mostly. You have wood surrounding them. Now the thing is that those things give off heat. And what happens is that when you're looking at something like wood, it begins to dry, and then it's exposed to these temperatures. And the thing is that you don't necessarily need a spark. Like the fumes within the combustible product itself will cause it to ignite.
Yeah, the flame doesn't actually have to touch the wood.
No.
I really thought you were going to go into your 3 ways of heating: convection, conduction, and radiation.
Well, yeah, it's stuck, right? It's stuck. It's stuck. I mean, because then of course you do have that radiating heat as well.
Yeah.
But we don't even have to break that down in this one because that thing, it just went really. Yeah. It wiped out where you didn't really have to get into that.
We've got wind. We've got not a lot of water. Not a lot of rainfall. Everything's dry, and everything's made out of wood.
So when you're talking about your conduction, convection, or radiation, that radiating heat is also going to cause those other structures next to them to combust. Smart aleck. All right, next one. So with the heat increased the wind, which came howling across the prairie, until at last there arose a perfect hurricane. Mighty flakes of fire, hot cinders, black, stifling smoke were driven fiercely at the people. And amid the terrible excitement, hundreds of them had their clothes burned off their backs as they stood there watching with tearful eyes the going down of so many houses.
Run away, run away.
Yeah.
I do find this amazing, as big as a tragedy it was.
Yeah.
Just over 300 people. For a 3-day fire that affects an entire city, yet Triangle, 150 victims on 3 floors.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you, how devastating this fire was, but also how, lucky really the city of Chicago was.
One is enough, but yeah, in terms of numbers, in terms of comparing it to incidents, absolutely perfect. Some of the problems we already identified, the fire department was powerless. We're talking about the drought, we're talking about the high winds, you're talking about the fact that a lot of these buildings are made out of wood. If you remember the story of the 3 little pigs, the one that was made out of straw, hay, and then the one that was made out of sticks, those homes went down rather quickly.
I like the foreshadowing.
You like that?
Yeah.
What else do we have here? Any other problems?
Good.
Some possible solutions that we could possibly see.
Don't make things out of wood.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't stop the wind from blowing.
No, you cannot. But you can build something much more stronger, durable, or fireproof, especially when we're looking at the skyscrapers that you're bringing up to the foreshadowing. That's going to be as fireproof as you get.
Yeah.
Steel on the inside, concrete on the other. So let's look at this other one. It's pretty brief. We've already identified some problems here. Sometimes I think this one is a little bit more obvious with certain things. So source, the manufacturers in New England, the manufacturer and builder, volume 6, and this is 1874. So we're a couple of years removed from the fire.
We've had time to reflect on the problems that led to the fire, and
Yep.
I'm sure they're going to present some possible solutions on how to prevent another fire like that from happening again.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Another lesson is, there we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
So we're getting into some lessons learned. That it is reckless folly to allow so many wood and flammable structures to exist close proximity to one another and to other buildings which are only partially fireproof. Let me just stop here, right? Isn't it funny sometimes where it's like, here you have, whoever wrote this, it almost sounds a little obnoxious and arrogant. Like, how could you build?
Yeah, like
How can you build these things so close
you want
together?
to prevent a fire. And if you've ever gone to like old New York, like downtown Manhattan,
Yeah.
or old Boston, those streets are close together.
Oh yeah, they are.
One building built like within inches of another building.
Right.
And it was like, what were they thinking?
Right. But for this guy to go, hey, it's obvious that this is, it's like, okay, time out a second, armchair quarterback. When you look at certain things, you're bringing up urbanization. The population is going up in the cities so much in fact that they don't have a lot of time to think about the repercussions of their actions. I mean, this is just, when you look at this disaster and what this disaster does, this is just like a tip of the iceberg of what's going on in cities. We're not even getting into poverty and the failure to have regulations or the need for regulations and laws and many things.
Why it happened and how we can prevent it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I just thought that was funny. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right, so a general conflagration of several blocks of framed buildings produces such an intense heat that nothing can stay its progress but partition walls built with the express purpose of performing such a duty. The only safe plan will be to make all new buildings fireproof and to insist that the false economy of a few shall not endanger the security and prosperity of whole populations. Because at a time when each inch of area is utilized and in many cities jealously economized, it is only the safeguard against fearful destruction of life and property. Other solutions they're suggesting here is, your fireproof buildings.
Fireproof buildings, build your buildings further apart, but more importantly, build your streets further apart.
Yep.
You know, when you go to New York City, I think it's every 8 blocks, there's a double wide block. It's like 34th, 42nd, 50th,
Did not
58th.
notice it.
Yeah, the street is extra wide. And it was designed that way on purpose to prevent this type of disaster, that if there is a major fire in the city, the fire won't be able to jump these fire streets, as they're called, the son of a New York City firefighter.
And then the thing is that anytime you see disasters, you do learn from it.
Yeah.
You know, this guy learned from it as well. And these are things that, you know, as we see more and more cities develop after the 1870s, you know, of course, there's only one direction you can go is building up with skyscrapers. And what are you going to make them out of? You know, concrete, steel, you know, things that are not going to be easily combustible.
Yeah, so you can't stop the wind.
Nope.
You can't make it rain.
Right.
But you can certainly no longer build your buildings out of wood.
Perfect.
Steel, concrete, build them a little further apart. Stay safe, America.
All right. And there's our fire prevention message for the week or the month or whatever. Good. Thanks for watching.